Before we get into today's episode, I want to ask you a quick favour. If you're getting value from any of our podcasts, and I genuinely hope you are, could you take just 30 seconds right now and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? It sounds like a small thing, but a rating would make a huge difference, and it'll take less time than pouring a cup of coffee. G'day. Welcome to the Agri-Coach podcast for families on the land who want to grow their family's wealth and prosperity across the generations. I'm your host, Ben Law, and I'm the financial bloke. I want to talk to you about something that comes up in almost every conversation I have with farming families right now. And it's not the weather and it's not commodity prices. It's people, specifically the right people. Because what I'm hearing over and over again is this. We put the ad out and we get nobody, or we get the wrong bodies. They show up, they last 6 months, and then we're back to square one. And meanwhile, the operation keeps growing, the workload keeps building, and the family keeps carrying it all themselves. Here's the hard truth I want to put on the table today. Most farming businesses aren't struggling to attract great employees because great employees don't want to work in agriculture. They're struggling because they've never been taught how to market themselves as employers. And there's a difference. Top performers, the kind of people who will genuinely move the needle on your business, well, they have options. They're choosing between opportunities. And if your job offer looks like everyone else's, if your offer doesn't speak to what they actually care about, they'll just scroll right past you. So today we're going to get into what it actually takes to attract quality people to a farming business, including in remote and regional areas where the challenge is even steeper. My guest today is Kelli McDougall, partner and managing director of Agri, one of Australia's leading recruitment firms focused exclusively on the agriculture industry. Kelli has more than 2 decades of experience in recruitment and HR consultancy, and she grew up in agriculture herself, and now leads a team that places talent across every level of agribusiness, from on-farm roles right through to the most senior leaders in corporate ag. So if anyone knows what top performers are looking for, it's Kelli. So without further delay, Kelli, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time between drinks. Now, Kelli, Before we get into the details today, just give us a bit of a rundown on your background and kind of where you are now.
Well, born and bred on a cropping cattle property out between Inglewood and Goondiwindi. Parents are still out there, semi-retired. Yeah, so agriculture's always been in my blood, so to speak, but I guess I've always been one of those country girls who's a country girl, have country values, but never really was very good on a horse, didn't have the cattle sense, didn't really like the physical labour. So, I was pretty honest with myself about that. My sister was very different, but went away to boarding school, then went to university, then, had my daughter quite young, which was a little bit of a surprise, but a blessing in the same respect. Went back to university and did my HR degree.
Wow.
So then moved to Toowoomba, which is obviously where we met, and rightly or wrongly, at the age of 25, decided to set up my own business in recruitment.
Didn't know better.
Didn't know any better, Ben. Learned a lot of really, really, really hard lessons. In hindsight, you look at it and think, gee, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. But I learned the hard way and always had a passion for people in business. And I've had my own business now for, 25 years almost. And I think the recruitment world has just changed so much. And about nearly 5 years ago now, I rolled my business back into Agri, which was owned by a couple of boys who grew up in Goondiwindi, who I've known for a really long time, the Brown brothers, who have a really successful labour hire business as well. And it just made sense that we launched the permanent recruitment, executive recruitment off the back of that. And going back into agriculture at the time just felt right, and it was. So I could see a real opportunity to assist and do what I'm passionate about in an industry that I think needed it. So I guess that's my background. Country girl who is not real good with the hands-on stuff, but I definitely understand and have a real affinity and passion for the farming and the agriculture business sector in Australia.
Well, it's really changed, hasn't it? I mean, over the last 10 to 15 years I know we're of the same age group, and I know back when I first got out of high school and university and things like that, agriculture wasn't as sexy as it is today. And there's a real heat up for talent in the industry over the last 10 years. And It's one of those things that consistently comes up in conversations is how do we actually find great people to come back into our business? Because the secret is who, not how.
Yeah.
And so I suppose you're in a really unique spot in that you get to talk to both sides of the equation, sort of every day in your job. You get to hear what the farmers are frustrated about when they're hiring someone, and you also get to hear what the top quality job seekers are actually wanting. So from your point of view, what's the single biggest mismatch you see between those two groups right now? What the farmers are looking for and giving and what the top performers are looking for? Because I want to focus on top performers, not just the average run-of-the-mill employee.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
That's why we started with it, Kelly.
Right, and I think that the biggest thing to highlight there is the change in ag. And we talk about farmers, and I think that you mentioned the word that ag wasn't sexy. I still don't think it is as much as it could be, whether that's the right word or not. But I'm pretty passionate about the fact that I think we as an industry in Australia, that being agriculture, just do not sell ourselves well enough. There's still a perception out there still to this day that you've got to have cow shit on your boots, excuse my French, to be in agriculture. And there is so much more. Ag is one of the most innovative, cutting-edge industries in this country, right up there with healthcare, when we look at the tech and the science involved, but we don't get that message out there. So I'll just preface it with that, and I think the corporatisation of Australian ag in the last 10 years has really enabled a better narrative and a better story. The family farm, so to speak, these days, unless they've either got niched or got big, they're really, really struggling, and that's just a fact, and you'd see that, I'm sure, every day. And we hear a lot about, corporates coming in and buying our farms. I actually think it's a good thing. I think it's enabling young people to see a career path. So when you talk about mismatch, bring it back to that. The biggest mismatch I hear and I see, even with the corporates, because often they'll acquire a large enterprise that may be run by their owners or whatever that might look like, there's still this, people don't want to work. Young people don't want to work. And then you're hearing from employees, ag employers don't get it. It's just about burning us and hours and import, and they don't get it. They're not paying us enough. So I think the biggest mismatch that we see is that it's not that people don't want to work in ag, it's that the roles aren't designed and communicated well. And the next generation are a bit more sophisticated when it comes to that. So I think when you're talking about top performing talent, they're there. We just as an ag industry are doing a very poor job of attracting them. Like it or not, that's the mismatch I see, is what we're looking for and what the employees are seeing.
So is there a mismatch between the actual what employees are looking for and what the employer, the farmers, are looking to provide, or is it just the communication of that opportunity between the two?
I think it's both. So I think there are some farming enterprises or commercial enterprises in the agricultural sector that are doing a really good job of having that, but they're not communicating it well. But then there's the ones who just don't get it and also aren't communicating it. Or they're saying we'll offer all this, but the reality of the offer, when it gets down to it, is they're not walking the walk.
So they're conveying there's this great opportunity, the top talent's coming in and saying this is fantastic, but when they're hitting the ground and getting there, they're going, hang on, this is not what I was sold.
Yeah, I mean, we see that across all industries, right, in recruitment. It's the biggest issue. You sell the dream and then the reality is very, very different. It's easy to, in the dating phase, for it all to look great, and then they hit the ground and they're actual employees, and it's very, very different. So I think there's the mismatch really is around an understanding of, the intergenerational requirements of employees these days. And I hear it all the time, Ben. I heard it last week, young people, they just don't want to work these days. And it actually really upsets me because it's not the reality. They just work differently. And it's up to us to really get to understand that, or we just don't tap into that generation and our businesses shrink. So it becomes a decision for the employer then, do you want to tap into that talent or not? And if you don't, good luck, because that's all that's out there.
Well, it's shrinking, isn't it? I'm 49 now, Kelly, so our generation is moving towards that retirement age, that pool's shrinking down. So now the 20s and 30s that are coming through are a completely different generation.
Absolutely they are, and that's not better or worse. It's different. And as employers, it's up to us to make sure that we understand that and what are those motivators and how do we get those people into our business, but also then how do we ensure we're getting the best out of them? Yeah, so that's It's mismatch. I think it's, like I said, it's not that people don't want to work in ag. It's just the way the roles are designed and communicated that just not matching what good people are looking for.
Let's get to the point of that then, Kelly. High performers, the people that everyone are chasing, the ones that every farming business wants or needs, what are they actually looking for in an employer? And I don't want to just say just salary, because I think that's obvious. Good people want to be paid well. But what actually moves the needle for someone who's got, lots of options? Because everyone's chasing that talent. What do they actually want that'll actually move the needle for them, where they'll go, yep, this is the opportunity I'm looking for?
It's such a good question. And it's one we've been talking about for 25 years, right? But it hasn't changed a lot. Salary, I haven't seen the survey for years, but I know there was one out about 10 years ago that of the 10 motivating factors, salary was about number 6. So you can pay someone all you like, but if the jobs are horrible, money will only motivate to a certain point. Mm-hmm. That's often why counter offers and things don't work. But what are we seeing in terms of what good people are looking for? And it's a bit nuanced. It depends on the role. I'll give you an example. If you're looking at really trade roles, for example, tradies in farming is one of the biggest skill shortages we've got, hence the reason, our migration business brought in over 120 diesel mechanics last year into various farming enterprises in Australia. That's a whole other, because we just don't have them. But tradespeople in agriculture will generally chase more money, but they also are looking for good equipment and professional development and those sorts of things. Whereas if you talk about top talent in management roles, they might be looking for different things to top talent in corporate services roles or farm managers but in general, it's, like I said, it's nuanced, but it's generally what people need is they want to understand the role. Do I know what I'm being paid to do? It's like anything. People perform when they have a clear expectation of what the outcome is. Systems drive behaviour. So that, we've got to get back to some fundamentals there. I think I hear a lot about, our culture, bring your dog to work day and we've got bubbly water and this and that. But if you don't have a well-defined role, that's just all fluff. So candidates really are looking for that well-defined, well-articulated role. They want to know, how do I know I've done a good job? Mm. It's Maslow's hierarchy, isn't it? We want to know that I'm fulfilling what I need to fulfill. And if you can't articulate what you want this person to do, then it's going to fail every time.
Well, without a doubt, because you're going to go back, there's going to be this misalignment between the two of them. There's a lack of clarity, lack of misalignment, and then all of a sudden they come in and you think you're doing a great job and your boss looks at you and goes, mate, you're a dingbat. You can't do what I asked you to do.
Yep.
Or vice versa. They've done exactly what the boss asked and I've said I've done exactly what I wanted, and then they go back going, well, there's a mismatch here, and that's always going to cause friction, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. So there's that. There's also that, top talent these days want to know what my career path is. And it's okay to say, maybe our business isn't big enough to offer one. And don't shy away from that. If you can get a really good person for 3 or 4 years and they go off and do something different and maybe they come back, that's okay. You're not going to get employees for life these days. So I think understanding where they want to be and where they want to go is important. Your leadership style, how you manage them, feedback. People are not mind readers. We know that. And, I still work on that with my team, and I've been doing this for a really long time. But the busier you get, the more you go, I think I told them that. Then all of a sudden you're like, realignment here. We have to sit down and communicate. And that's all good leadership is, isn't it? Doing what you say you're going to do and communication. And then quality of life is really important. And by that, I don't mean, birthdays off and early knockoffs on Fridays. It might be that, but everybody has a different need around that. So again, if you've got a well-articulated role and you know what you need out of that role and what those outcomes are, does it really matter what the input in that is? The whole clock on, clock off, especially on farm roles, I still don't understand that. When we ask what are the hours, and the farm manager will be like, it's a 7 o'clock start and a hard 5 finish. And it's like, well, isn't it more about what needs to be done? And if someone can do that in less time, is there a problem with that? So it's about understanding what that driver for that person is. Good people want to know they've got some flexibility so that they can have that quality of life, because it's hard enough, especially on farm roles. The cows still need to be fed and the crops still need to be watered and all the rest of it. So where there is some flexibility, when they can take it, let them have it.
Yep. And downtime, I'm guessing, because, one of our families we work with is in WA, and they have a distinct season. They've got seeding and then they've got harvest. And in between that, there's there's still lots to be done, but it's a distinct pattern where you've got your ups and downs. Whereas a lot on the East Coast here, we've got another family where they just said, well, we're either planting or harvesting or spraying 365 days of the year. So I'm guessing they're looking for that pressure and release to be able to go, we'll work hard, but we also need some downtime. Is that fair as well?
Absolutely fair. And I think as owners of businesses, we know this, you put in what you have to put in, and because, the more you put in, the more you get out. But when you're talking to employees, we can't have that same expectation on them. So we really have to make sure that people are able to balance their work life. And it's really hard with, the right to disconnect legislation and flexible work practices, all fantastic. A farmer can't do that. We often joke they're the original work from home. Right. So I think that agriculture is already struggling because, we're seen as we're below the median wage in terms of what we pay for similar roles across other industries. That's a fact. Agriculture just doesn't quite pay as well. We can't have that. And also, by the way, you don't have any flexibility like the rest of the world. So there has to be, okay, you're going to have to do 50 hours a week, but this is what the trade-off is.
Yep. So what, Kelly, if I look at this, you get to see top talent, I'm sure, where you go, this guy or girl is a rock star. They're amazing. Yep. They might be early in their career and you can see the potential, or they might have the runs on the board. And then you place them with someone and then all of a sudden they go, oh, no, we're leaving. Mm. Is there some real key themes where good business owners, so we're not talking about the arseholes out there, we're talking about the people that mean well, want to do the right thing, which I think most people do. They run a good business, but then top talent comes in and leaves. What's some real reasons why that top talent might leave? Is there some common threads?
The biggest thread, the most common feedback we get across the board is the job is not what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Yep.
And that's why I harped on it before, and we don't, you mentioned the terrible employers, we don't deal with them. We weed them out in our job briefing because we don't want to place people where we know they're not going to last. We have replacement guarantees and we also have an ethical obligation to that.
We have in our business a no dickhead rule. So we make sure we filter anyone out very carefully first.
We call it our DNA check.
Yes. Yep. That's a much better way to say it.
A lot of people who ring in don't pass that for different reasons. But, that's the number one reason, Ben. It's probably, don't quote me here, but it's probably 90% of the reasons that people will leave an employer. It's like they were lovely people, but you know what? They told me this was the job, got there, job's not that.
So is there some key things they're missing? Like the job's different? Like in which sort of way, Kelly, do you normally see? Is it about the job I've got to do? Is it expectations? Like what does it look like when – because the farmer sits there and goes, well, the job is what I said and I'm lost.
I don't think it's a deliberate thing and I don't think it's a sinister thing. And I'll give ourselves a bit of a plug here, but we're all – my team are all experienced HR professionals as well who understand organisational design and structure. So when we go into a new client, 9 times out of 10 when we're taking a job brief, which is a fairly lengthy process, the job they think they want and what we end up with are different because we challenge them.
So they don't actually know what they want.
No. And the job might be, I want a unicorn who can stand on his head and juggle. And when you actually put it back on them and give them some data and show them how a structure should be designed and what first and second level management should look like and what authority levels, okay. So I don't think it's we deliberately misrepresenting this job. They just don't know what they don't know. It would be like me going and having to grow a canola crop. I wouldn't have a clue. Understanding organisational design is not their thing unless they've got a HR department, which a lot of them have, but even then they get it wrong. So I think it's more really interrogating that job. Before you go to market, even if you're not using a recruiter, we say just double check, sit down and go, do I need to replace like for like?
Oh, so you've lost someone or someone's left or you've exited them. Don't just go, I'll try and rinse, wash and repeat.
Yeah, go back look at the role. Okay. That's your real opportunity to go, the world's changing at such a pace with technology and automation, innovation, AI. We all get sick of hearing about it, but it's a game changer. Have a look at your roles and see if you can pivot or change. Maybe you can't, but especially in those roles that are less hands-on, so to speak, We have it all the time where we'll talk a client out of replacing a role. They're like, oh, okay, so I've just saved 150 grand off the bottom line. Yeah, you have. Because when you really look at why am I putting that person in, there may be not such a good reason for it anymore. Or you could restructure that role. So again, I don't think it's a sinister thing. I think it's just it's like you with financial planning or financial advice or succession. People only know what they know. We use marketing specialists, we use finance specialists, I don't know, seek that advice, I think is what I would say.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a smaller family. And when I say smaller, some of those family businesses are huge.
Yeah, but small numbers of employees.
Correct.
The people come in, the top talent come in and they identify and they go, we like this business. It looks great on the outside. They get into the role and then they all of a sudden figure out, holy shit, this isn't what we were sold.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's a bit of personality challenges there as well. Like when they come into those businesses, you can have free reign, you can make decisions, they're autonomous and they get micromanaged.
Correct.
I'm guessing that falls into there a little bit as well because most farmers are pretty driven, motivated and aren't socialised well with employees quite often.
Absolutely. But that again comes back, Ben, why do people micromanage? Either they just have very limited trust or there's no measures in place. Again, articulate the role, well-defined role, well-designed KPIs or deliverables, whatever you want to call them, and it can be written on a napkin, but define your role and give that person the autonomy to just do it. Now, if they don't, and it's like, I've told you this is what you need to do, that's when you can start micromanaging, and that's called performance management. And potentially you've got the wrong person in the job. But if you've got a really, really good person, the reason I would challenge anyone to say, why am I micromanaging? Maybe it's because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what that person should be doing. So I'm dipping back into the detail. We see it all the time, even boards, don't even get me started on board structures in Australia, but boards are, they dip into operations all the time. And again, it shouldn't happen that way.
So obviously the battle for talent is out there. I mean, good operators are trying to find good operators. What's catching their eye, Kelly? Like if you look at a good operator, whether that be a farm worker, right up to farm manager, GM, etc., what catches their eye? Are those top people always looking around, so therefore they're keeping an eye out? Or if they are, what catches their eye? Like what are they actually really, really sort of going, wow, that's what I'm looking for? That's
an interesting question because, we just, last year of the hundreds of placements we did, over 80% of them were a headhunt. So the talent shortage is out there. So if you just chuck an ad on Seek, you've probably got a 20% chance of filling it. So people aren't always looking, but in our experience, generally people are happy to take a call and hear about an opportunity. And if it sounds great, they'll usually entertain at least a conversation. Now, the reason people will say no, even if that is because they're in a really good employer. And what defines a really good employer? There's a lot of things. But like I said, doing what you say you're going to do, clearly defined roles, succession, they're paid well, they've got flexibility. They understand the vision of the business.
That's interesting, yeah.
People who are out there looking at ads, you put an ad out, what's going to attract somebody? It's not just dollars, hours. Our employer has great work, flexible work. Try and think of things that are a bit out of the box. And, we're seeing so many different things now, but this next generation coming through, so the 35s and under, the millennials and the whatever you want to call them, social presence is so important to them. We have had young people who are seriously good performers, farm managers, accountants, anyone in that ag sector who have said to us, I can't tell you how many times I've heard it, oh, look, I Googled them. They don't have a presence online. They might be a bit dodgy.
Mm-hmm.
A $500 million family cotton organisation. They're not. But this is what young people are looking at. So having a good social presence, as in employer branding, is key. You've got to have it, whether you want to or not. Making sure that you're ticking all of those boxes will really, really help. Are you aligned with, social causes, this next generation? That's really important to them. Where's their social conscience? What are they?
Yeah, community.
Community, absolutely, especially those regional and remote roles. A lot of corporate roles are in the cities and that makes it a little bit easier to get people. But if you're getting people regional, rural, remote, you've got to have a really compelling story. And the key thing, Ben, is housing. The elephant in the room.
For good people.
Oh, for anybody, if you want to get even like labour, if you need labour in your business, even seasonal workers, they got to live somewhere. And we all know that the housing shortage is real. And we've had to say no to taking on jobs because they're like, oh, no, we don't have a house and there's nowhere to rent in
Quilpie
or Dubbo or outside Narromine or places like that. So unless you're providing housing, you've got to look at housing now as a cost of doing business.
Yep.
It's not a real estate investment. If you're on a farm and you don't have housing, you are going to struggle. And not just housing, good quality housing. If you want to attract the best farm manager to run your cotton property out at North Star and you've got a shitty old house with no air conditioning and a crappy old 1970s kitchen, forget it.
Like if I listen to most of the farming families that I work with, a lot of them say things like, we want to spend some money on our house because that's our sanctuary. Yeah. That's when we come off the farm. That's where you see so many, like my mum does it, waters the hell out of the grass, make sure the garden's nice, that the house is the sanctuary because they can come off the farm back into the house. And I feel like we forget that for the employees, that they want the same. They want to be able to come off the farm, back home, into their little sanctuary. And if it's a donger on the side of a shed, that's not really going to attract the top performers because they'll have choice. This is the thing. You could have the best job in the world, but if you've got a great job and someone else down the road's got a great job, but they've got a reasonable accommodation, you know who's going to get the job.
Absolutely, because it's not just, especially people with families, it's either their significant other, whether it be the husband or the wife, and their children, they're coming too. So not only are you relocating the person that's working for you, you've got a family, and often the schooling, they may have to just put their kids in a school where they don't have the choice of a city. So making sure that nail on the head, so it's got to be a sanctuary because it's almost more important than in the cities because if you go home and you don't love where you live, you can go down the road to the shopping centre or you can go to a restaurant or you can get away from that. You can't.
Or rent somewhere else.
Correct. If you're in the middle of nowhere, that's got to be, and that's going to give you a much better performing and happier employee. And you're right, we are seeing more and more of it, and it's almost unfair because I think agriculture has that added complexity, but we can't sit and wait for the government to intervene. We can't, employers, and, we deal with a lot of the really big corporate, whether they're international private equity businesses, and they're investing heavily in that because they know they have to. So no longer is real estate on farm a real estate investment. It's just like paying super or payroll tax or work cover. It's a cost of doing business. We've got to have it.
Yep. It's interesting also too, Kelly, one of the things, the families that I work with, we had an online mastermind session the other day and we're all talking about how do we raise standards and in the business. So for the family, the business, raising the standards consistently. And one theme that came through from everyone is when you raise the standards in your business, so you do things better, you've got better quality housing, better machinery, and I know that all comes at a cost and people will be listening going, oh, Ben, that's easy to say. We're not a corporate or a large scale. I get that. Yeah. So it's all got to be done within reason. But that's going to attract high performers because high performing people like high standards. So if you have very low standards back in your farming operation or your business, you're not going to attract a high performer because low performers don't like high performers. High performers don't like low performers. There's going to be a mismatch and you can be the nicest person in the world, but if you're running a business of very low standards, then you're just going to attract other low standard people.
100%. Water finds its own level, right?
It does, yeah.
So, even with leadership, often you'll see a business where it's like, why are we churning people here and the quality of the people's getting lower and lower? First thing I say is have a look at your manager or your leader.
Your culture.
Usually, your culture.
If everyone else is the problem, eventually you got to sit there and look and think, maybe I'm the problem.
And that's hard in a big family business, right? Yeah. Where it might be dad's the problem. What do you do with that?
Dad or mum or one of the siblings, And I think, Kelly, and I'd love to hear your comment on this, is the next generation must be a bit more aware of this because I seem to, like the more, like I get to deal with probably within our families, there's about 50 next generation between 30 and 16. I love part of that we're preparing to take over. And, you talk to the next generation and they really get this.
They do.
And so I look at families and say, okay, well, if you're trying to attract, people within 10 years of yourself, you'll understand them. So if you're 60, you'll understand a 50-year-old. If you're 50, you'll understand a 60-year-old. But if you're 55 and you're trying to think like a 25-year-old, you're going to struggle.
Yeah,
so why not tap into your kids and say, hey, guys, what would attract you to a role? What do we need to be doing to tap into that?
Yeah, definitely. And the younger generation, they do think differently. Like I said, not better, not worse, just different. And that's okay. And I think we just need to embrace that.
Yep. So what do the young people need to know then, Kelly? Like if the younger ones are coming in, let's say talk to the 35-year-olds, what mistakes are they making about attracting talent?
Oh, there's so many. Like I said, they're not selling themselves. So you've got to think these days, like this is a skill shortage. And I think what underpins all of this, Ben, is there's such a skill shortage in this country. And I don't know if you read much about like the economics or the demographics through Bernard Salt and Simon.
Yeah. Well, I'm an agricultural economist by trade, shall we say. So, yeah, I'm always interested in that stuff.
I love that stuff. And stats don't lie, right? Good stats don't lie. And if you look at the ABS statistics, or we have an ageing population, we have corporatisation.
And even worse in ag.
Correct. A lot of family businesses getting out. We had, the last sort of 20 years there's been less kids going into ag at university. So we've got a gap in skills coming through, along with a reduction in population growth. The next 100 years, they say it's going to flatten off. We've got a retirement cliff coming. I don't think Australians in general really understand what that means. It's quite terrifying. In the words of Bernard Salt, the only way we're going to be able to staff in this country is automation and immigration.
Yeah, AI and robotics.
Correct. So what does that mean for agriculture? Embrace as many automations that you can, because you're going to need to, because there's not going to be the people to sit on the tractors and do that work. But also when you get good people, try and hang on to them. So I think the younger generation, what do they need to be doing? They need to be embracing that and looking at their business really critically, which I think most of them are doing. But like I said, not replace like for like. Always take that opportunity to do a deeper dive and look really critically at your business, but also look outside of ag. Think about the skill set. Look at that role and go, does it have to be someone who understands agriculture, or does it have to be someone with this core skill set? Maybe that person's come out of manufacturing or something. So we are not just competing with people in ag here. We're competing with other sectors, because we are seeing people jump out of ag into other sectors because they're already embracing that, and they see the work ethic and they see the skill set in these young ag people, and we're losing them to other industries. And that is terrifying because there's not enough of them.
No, and I appreciate that. And not enough good ones. Again, you're probably looking at 5% of the talent pool is the top performers. And so if everyone's chasing that 5%. So, Kelly, I agree with you about them selling yourself, because I did a podcast last year with Brendan McDonald of Cobright Marketing in Toowoomba. And I remember Brendan saying to me something along the lines of, he's getting more and more inquiries because they do websites and all those sorts of things. He said, and their driver is recruitment. So he said, traditionally people would come in and say, we've got a Santa Gertruda stud. We want to sell bulls, or we're selling direct-to-market beef and we want to have a website. He said, now they're coming in saying, how do we build a website to attract people? Good. So how do people sell themselves, Kelly? And I see it, a lot of these top farming families who are absolute rock stars, great at what they do, would be a great employer, they have zero online presence. So how would you say they could, someone who wasn't selling themselves well, or if someone did sell themselves well, what does that look like?
I think authenticity, still at the end of the day, that's what people are chasing, a connection, a human connection. And you can have the prettiest website in the world and you can have the best copywriting on it, or whatever that might be. But I think there's been a real switch to people want to connect with people. So if you're a family business, I would say get a Facebook page, just talk to it, do some videos and make it authentic. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Use your iPhones these days, take better videos than anything. So look at the world of vloggers and influencers, and we can kick and scream all we like, but those people are making serious money because they're connecting. And we need to embrace that. Celebrate the good stories, highlight the hard bits, but don't focus on that. Have a Facebook page and do a monthly or a weekly update, on your quad, driving around the farm, whatever that is. Let people know who you are and why your business is different and why you love your business. Be really authentic.
Yeah, because it's like I know for myself, if I have a family approach me and say, hey, Ben, we need some help. We're winding up towards succession in the next 5 to 10 years. First thing I do is get online and Google them and see who they are as people.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't make me decide whether I'm going to deal with them, but I get a sense of who they are as a person first. And I sort of go, okay, I can see that. I can see Kelly, her history, her background. Here's a couple of photos of her out on the horse or going on holidays to the beach. Oh, gee, I see some holiday photos on the beach. You must have a bit of work-life balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's you training your working dogs. Okay, righto, fantastic. You're doing a training day with your staff.
Yep.
Oh, geez, maybe they're all about development. Here's doing some renos on the workers' cottage. Oh, they actually care about their employees. Like it gives that sense of feeling.
We've got a cotton client who's like, they have a cricket team and, those sort of things. Don't underestimate how that will resonate with people out there looking for work, because you've just got to remember, you're not just competing with people in ag, you're competing for talent across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Skill sets are transferable. So why are they going to come work for you where it's harder, it's more remote? When you look at why people work in agriculture, it's a heart thing.
They enjoy the industry.
It's a passion. Yeah. Livestock people, we know livestock people just have this love for animals, and they will earn less money to fulfill that. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's much easier to sell. If you're in horticulture or broadacre agriculture, don't underestimate feeding the world, clothing the world. And that's not a big out there statement, it's a fact. Celebrate the reduction in chemicals that we're using in Australian ag, because Aussie ag gets such a bad rap. And it's like, look at the actual data, guys. There's so much amazing science in this industry and R&D and automation, and we've got to celebrate it. And the only way to do that and get it out there is marketing.
Yeah.
And that can be really cheap these days.
It can, yeah. Well, it is really cheap because especially if you've got the next generation. Like I've got a lot of my families to say, harness the next generation. They're off at university or they're finishing school or something like that, and you need a social media presence. When they come home in the school holidays, take some videos of, some cattle out in the back paddock doing some fencing and just post it. It doesn't have to be a curated, beautiful, Instagram-worthy. It's probably the exact opposite. And it's funny, Kelly, I do have a funny story. My nephew if he's listening at the moment, he just finished school last year, and we were talking about jobs for a gap year and things like that, and he loves farming, absolutely loves it, passionate about it. And I was talking about a family, and I said, look, here's the photos, and there's the photo of the family, and there's the photo of them playing cricket, and there's some photos of them doing some professional development. He's like, oh, yeah, it's fine. And then they had a picture of the tractor, and then of the spray rig, and then of the automated self-driving tractor. Yeah. And he's looked, he's gone, oh, I like the look of that place.
Absolutely.
And it was funny. So sometimes it doesn't have to be the personal stuff. It can be the business stuff where, especially the young men more, I think that's probably the young men more than the women, but being able to show that, hey, we run a good operation. There's some opportunities here. And some of those young men, they go, wow, I just love tractors.
They do. And my nephew was actually the same. He did a gap year last year. And, we'd get these videos on the family chat on the big John Deere out past Goondiwindi. And it was all about the big machines and the big tractors. Yeah. And a lot of people who live in the cities or have never been involved in ag, they're blown away. They're like, holy moly, look at the technology here. You look at the chicken industry in Australia, the egg industry, there's some of our big clients, and it's mind-blowing. You go through some of those egg processing plants and it's another world.
Totally. And, I have families that embrace technology, and some of the work that's going on is just absolutely amazing. And I think we can attract people now that don't just necessarily also just want to be mustering cattle or driving tractors. There's automation, there's all the technology coming through now. So, Kelly, as we start to wind this up, mate, this has been really valuable. I think there's some great things in here. If you had to pick one thing that a family's out there now going, we need to recruit a top performer, whether that be, again, farm worker, up to farm manager, GM. What's one thing they should just start doing differently today if you had to give them one thing to take away?
Ooh, can I say 2?
Go for it. You can say 3 if you like.
That authentic presence out there online, however that looks. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it, and don't let anyone tell you you've got to pay a marketing agency $10,000 to do that. The second thing is to be really clear. So clarity. Clarity is what is going to give any business a competitive advantage. So, and when I say that, I mean be really, really clear on what the outcome is of that job that you're designing. So think about it like that. I think the key takeaway is around that job design. Look at your business, be really critical and say, okay, farm manager, we want a farm manager on our, 40,000 hectare broadacre sorghum farm, whatever it might be. What's the outcome that I want? If that person starts in 6 months' time, what does good look like? And in 12 months' time, what does great look like?
Yes, so you're clear on what the great outcome looks like.
It's so clear. Forget about the person. What is the outcome?
Mm.
And then re-engineer the job back from there. So be really, really, really clear, because if you can't be clear on what your job looks like and you can't articulate, they're not going to choose you.
Yep, that's really good. And this day and age, if you want to hands-on do it yourself, you can get into AI, ChatGPT, Claude, all those sorts of things can help you clarify that down. So there's no excuse now. Or you can go to a recruiter or some professional to be able to go, help me actually craft that up.
Craft that up and then go to market. Don't go to market until you have absolute clarity, because it will fail.
Or you might get a rock star come in and then you've the one chance you'll get at getting a rock star, and then you've all of a sudden burnt your chance with them.
And the cost of that, the cost of a wrong hire it's huge. It's not just the recruiter cost or your time to recruit cost and the downtime of training, and it's everything else that goes with that. It's significant.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Okay, Kel, I've got one last question after I go through this that I'll give everyone, but I want to give you the chance. Where can people find you online or more about you and the business, Kelli?
So obviously our business is Agri Talent. We are online at agritalent.com.au. We also have another business called Global People Solutions, which used to be a part of Agri Talent. We've just launched it off, and it's just globalpeoplesolutions.com.au. So that's for anyone who's considering bringing in people from overseas. We saw a real gap in the ag sector. So predominantly trades, diesel mechanics, fitters, those sort of people. Like I said, we brought in hundreds of them.
Yep.
So we run the whole process, because the migration climate is obviously very different in Australia and very difficult and a lot of paperwork. So, that's where you can find us, or on LinkedIn, just Kelli McDougall, for an Agri Talent page. We do post quite a bit of content, or just reach out to us, email.
Well, all your contact details are on the website, aren't they?
Yeah, but we're always happy to help out, and we won't take a role on if we don't think it's going to benefit our client. So if we think you're not ready, or we think the role's not well enough designed, we'll walk away from it.
But you'll also help people do that, won't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kelli, this is the tough question. If I gave you a time machine right now and you went back in time to when Kelli was 25, which was a couple of years after I first met you, I think, what's one piece of advice you'd give young Kelli?
Holy moly, Ben. Be kinder to myself. Yeah. And understand that you don't have to be perfect, because aiming for that has the opposite effect. Yeah, just be kinder and just, I think, listen more to the people around me. Yeah, be kinder. Don't do things for other people. Do things that you know are right for you, because in the long run, that's where you need to be. And I think it's taken me a really long time to work that out. Yeah. And that's another thing. I think the younger generation are so much more in touch with what they need for themselves, as opposed to that extrinsic, I need to do this for everyone else, or I need other people to see me this way.
Yep.
Let the ego go would be my biggest advice. Be kinder and let the ego go. Who cares what anyone else thinks, as long as you know you're living your truth. That sounds a bit woohoo, but that's honestly the advice. It'll all be okay.
Yeah. No, that's good advice, I think, Kelli. It's interesting. I wrote a blog recently around your 20s is the best time to fail. So fail fast and fail often. Like if you're not failing and you're not pushing yourself. But I know back when I was in my 20s, is I pushed hard, but also was very resistant to failure. And if failure came up, it was devastating. Whereas I look back now and I go back and I go, but that was where I learnt all my lessons. Like from failure comes lessons. You can't learn things unless it breaks or doesn't work. So there's a lot of opportunity, but unfortunately a lot of young people can beat themselves up that they're not where they need to be, and they feel so I think the quicker they can realise that, the better.
And also realise that if things keep happening to you, the other bit of advice would be, if you feel like things keep happening to you, then potentially maybe you need to look at how you're contributing to those issues, because often negative things happen in your life and you're like, oh, poor me, and then you sit back and go, hang on a minute, I think maybe there's the common denominator here might be me. That would be
That's terrifying, isn't it?
Reminder, but also be more critical. That was quite contradictive, but you know what I mean?
No. Be self-aware, I think is the word.
The
yeah, be a bit self-aware. Yeah. Awesome, Kelly. Well, look, that's been amazing. I've got some great ideas out there, but for me, the big takeaway is, like you said, sell yourself. Great talent can't find you unless you've got your story out there in the marketplace. And the second one was most top talent is headhunted. So get 100%. To know, find the people like the recruiter to help you find those people, or reach out to your networks and find people.
Yeah.
That's where most of the success is going to come from. And like you said, just putting an ad on Seek is probably 20% chance.
Well, if that these days, yeah. There's great people aren't hard to find. They're just hard to convince.
Yeah.
If you just keep that in mind, gone are the days when they should be lucky to work for you. It's the other way around.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm going to write that down. Awesome, Kel. Well, look, thanks very much for today. I know you've invested your time. You've got a charity lunch to go to soon. So good luck. And thank you very much. And look forward to having you back on at some stage again too, Kelly.
Good to see you again.
Well, podcast episode's over. Kelly did a bit of a good summary at the end, but hey guys, I want to give you just a couple of key points that I think are worth taking away at the end, like I like to do. Number one, get your social presence up there. Get a website. Start selling yourself. Doesn't have to be polished, expensive, fancy. It just has to be authentic and it has to be real, so that when people are looking, they can actually find you and they can actually know who you are and get a feel for the business. That's going to attract them. Number two, housing. I know that's an internal problem and it's like, Ben, that's easy said than done. Sounds to me like businesses need to start prioritizing making sure they've got a good environment if they want to attract some good talent. Number three, get your job description or your role or the outcomes of your role really, really clear. Kelly hammered that home, and when we finished up the podcast, she said exactly the same thing. She said, get that job role and the outcomes right. And the last one is do what you say you'll do. Be a high performer. If you're going to do something, do it, follow through, and have high standards within your business. She said the number one reasons most people leave is the standards were low or the wrong expectations were given. So they're just a couple of things to take away. And if you want to reach out to Kelly, go onto her website. All the contact details are there. So guys, that's it for today. If you think that was valuable, I'd love it if you could share it with another family or some of your friends out there. That's the way we get out more of the wealth and wisdom. So until next time, I'm Ben Law, I'm the Financial Bloke. And remember, it's more important who you are than what you've got. See you next time.